Hey, welcome to Sparks. So I'm out here on my boat fishing at one of my new favorite spots. It's been a busy morning. I've caught a bunch of fish and one I get to keep for dinner. Um, and so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about another topic related to fishing, lying. And so let me start with a story, but I wanted to remind you before I begin, I wanted to remind you about the kindness challenge that we're doing. You can see that in another spark called Karen's, Kyle's, and Kindness. It's a 7-day kindness challenge where you do any kind of act of kindness for someone you don't know for 7 days in a row. And you can find out more about that or by watching that video. But I just wanted to remind you that if you were thinking about doing it, this is the kind of thing that sometimes gets put on the back burner and you forget all about it. So I wanted to give you a heads up about that. But last weekend we spent time on a lake with 3 families that we've done this before. I think this is the second year. We're going to do it again next year. It's a fun time. Somebody usually brings a boat. I usually bring my fishing gear in case any of the kids or the parents want to fish, and it's a good time. It's a lot of fun. And so I was fishing, and on this occasion, I turned to my godson. We were fishing from the dock, not in the boat yet. But I was fishing, and I turned to my godson, Jonah, and said, "Hey, Jonah, if I catch one, you can reel it in." And sometimes that happens on the boat, too. In fact, where I am right now, his sister, Elsie, caught a huge red drum right here just a couple of weeks ago. So sure enough, I hook into a catfish and I call out to Jonah and he reels it in and he's all happy, and I go back to fishing and he goes back to doing what he was doing at the house, and he's telling everybody, that he just caught a big catfish. And so my son Connor says, "Okay, Jonah, how big was it? And just remember that you're a fisherman." So that implied that he needs to exaggerate or he needs to lie or not, kind of the fish gets bigger, right? Even the way you take a picture of the fish where you hold it closer to the camera so it looks a whole lot bigger is part of the fun, right? And everybody kind of understands that that's the deal. But it raises a question, and I've got lines in the water, so I may have to stop at some point. It's getting near low tide, but it's been one of those mornings where the bite has been on. So I'm looking at my rods as I'm talking to you. So it raises a question of, all right, is he lied? Actually, Jonah didn't. I don't think Jonah can, right? Jonah is just one of those really, really good dudes that's honest and will almost always tell the truth. And, it's a good lesson for all of us to model because there's way too much lying going on in the world today. And it's one of the things as Christians we're supposed to make sure we don't do, right? And if you looked in the Bible, there's all kinds of stories in the Bible, and it's part of the 10 Commandments. So it's something God doesn't like lying. You're not supposed to do it. And if you Googled it, you'd find all kinds of lectures and sermons about you shouldn't ever lie under any circumstances, and even a white lie, which is almost designed in some cases to make the person feel a little bit better, maybe spare their feelings. And there's some challenges with that too. And when my son Connor was 5, we had this conversation about if it's ever okay to lie. He wanted to know why lies had colors. Again, 5-year-olds are kind of literal, right? So we had a good conversation about whether it's ever good to lie, and what white lies are. And there's plenty of stories in the Bible where it says absolutely all the time you should tell the truth, no matter whether that hurts the person's feelings or not. But is it always that simple? Is it always that easy? Is it always that cut and dry? Because there are some times when it is okay to lie. Like when you catch a fish, or you don't catch a fish, or you exaggerate the size of the fish that you caught. Or maybe when you're playing a game like poker where you're supposed to bluff and try to convince the other players that you have a better hand than you actually do. Or maybe when you're in sports, you fake out a player. You're lying about where you're going, which way. And and everybody sort of understands that, or even in advertising, right? That this is the best pizza in the world, when there's no evidence or data that proves that. You're just, everybody's sort of claiming it, and you go, okay, wink, wink, I got it. You're just making a claim that yours is better than the next guy. I can think of times when police officers go undercover and they lie and represent someone else in order to collect evidence to catch bad guys, or organizations doing things that they shouldn't. Or when they're interrogating a suspect, they lie and say how much evidence they have to convict this guy just to get him to confess. So it's not that simple in many cases of whether it's okay to always tell the truth or not. What about those times when you're lying to save someone's life? Would that be okay? Are there exceptions to that? I think about in some of your history classes, you may remember, or you may be learning about it now, about the slave trade and how many in the Underground Railroad, and how many people were against slavery and hid slaves that were running away and trying to be free, and because they knew that their owners were abusive, and they would end up getting hurt or killed if they turned them in. Or even during World War II, there were many people that protected Jews from the Nazis because they knew that if they caught them, they would go to a concentration camp where they'd be executed. Is it okay then? Is it okay to tell a lie when you're saving someone's life? So I think you see the challenges here, right? And where in the Bible are those exceptions, if they exist? Are there any? You might be asking, because it seems like it's cut and dried in the Bible. You will not lie. You will always tell the truth. Hey, it's one of the 10 Commandments, right? Don't mess around with this. God really doesn't like it when you lie. What about white lies, right? Are white lies okay? You don't want to tell the guy he got a bad haircut, or the food that he cooked for you stinks and he's not a very good cook. So you make up some story. I was late for work because I got stuck in traffic. When you were playing video games, you weren't telling the truth, right? So you're just trying to save face, or you're trying to make the person feel better. Is that okay? I used to joke with Connor that the only time it was okay to lie was when we were running late and Mom asked how her hair looked. And that's a little joke, and I know my wife's not going to like that one, but it is a little funny, right? It kind of is. But it's not okay. It's still a lie. It's still deception. I don't know how you demonstrate love by lying to somebody. So that gets kind of tricky. So the question might be, where are there stories in the Bible where there's an exception to this rule? Is there anything, I gotta fix this. Is there anything that we need to know where God said, yeah, I'm not a big fan of lying. I really don't like it. But in this situation, I'm willing to go, all right, because you were doing it for a much more important purpose. And so I think of two stories. I think of the story in Exodus about the Pharaoh and how he told all the midwives to throw the firstborn or the young male babies into the river and kill them, and it has to do with Moses. And I think you should read that story because that's kind of interesting too. The midwives didn't do it because they were more afraid of God than they were of Pharaoh, and there were good reasons for them not doing it. The other story is the one in 1 Joshua with Rahab, right? Who hid the two spies when the authorities were looking for them, and Rahab ended up being spared because when they came back and during the fall of Jericho, they left Rahab and her family alone because the spies kind of stood up for her, saying, hey, they saved their life, and even God sort of rewarded Rahab by not killing her when everybody else was being disobedient. So it seems to suggest that those two stories imply that there are exceptions to this rule. Maybe there are times when it's okay, when there's a much greater purpose involved. And again, it gets tricky because who gets to decide whether that's a much greater purpose or not? But I think of the problem with lying in general is, one, it's a sin, okay. Two, the truth always seems to come out. No matter how good or clever you think you are, or how likely it is the person's going to get away with telling a lie, the truth it always comes out, sooner or later. And oftentimes when you tell one lie, then you got to tell another to cover up for the first one. And before you know it, you're 3 or 4 or 5 lies down the road, and you don't even remember what you said. So that's a problem. And what does it say about your character? when you are a liar? Are you trustworthy? Is anyone going to really want to be in a relationship with you because they think you're always, telling stories and making up stuff and lying? And so that doesn't work either. So there's from the sin perspective, there's from the truth always comes out. It says something about your character and what kind of people you're going to be associating with, or who's going to want to associate with you. You know that old thing about bad company corrupts good character, right? So who are the kind of people that want to hang out with people who lie? And is that you? And are those the people you want to hang out with? And so I want you to think about that the next time you're trying to sort of find a way to tell the truth. And it's really hard. I get that. And we're not always going to do it the right way. The most important thing is that when we do lie, we own it. We come back and we say, look, I'm sorry, that wasn't true. I don't know what I was thinking, or I was trying not to get in trouble, Mom. You don't want your mom or your dad thinking that, well, okay, when your phone broke, was it because it just stopped working, or because you were messing with it and you were irresponsible and now you're not telling me the truth because you're worried about getting in trouble? Do you want that kind of relationship? Do you want your parents thinking of you, or your siblings or your friends thinking of you like, can I really count on the fact that this guy's going to be honest and truthful or not? That matters, right? So it matters about a lot of who you are and what you're about, but also the kinds of people you're going to be associated with. Not to mention forgetting for the second that you've just made God kind of mad at you. And there's no reason for you to lie, right? There's always a gentle, kind way to tell the truth. So instead of lying and saying that guy's haircut was really bad, and you say, no, it looks really good. You could find a gentle way to say, maybe next time I'll go with you and we can talk about, or look at different hairstyles before we go. So kindness and honesty are not separate things. They can happen at the same time. So don't mistake that. All right? So go give that some thought. Let me know what you think. Put some comments in the section below. And again, just a reminder about that kindness challenge. See if you can do that for 7 days, and then send me an email. I really want to send you guys t-shirts that say it's cool to be kind, because that means you did it and you were honest about it, and you were successful. So, all right, we'll talk to you soon. Take care.